was watching a video the other day, and the guy was talking about some piece of software, and he goes, and you can run it locally. Like it was magic. I'm like, that's all we used to be able to do.
Yeah, if you didn't have your floppy disk, you couldn't run it anywhere.
I know.
Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patience. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right.
All right, Donna, today we're going to be talking about digital Jenga. You ever played that game?
Yes.
Have you ever played the big one, like the yard Jenga? It's like when it falls, somebody's getting hurt.
Yeah. I need the one with the little squishy blocks, where it's not going to hurt nobody. Because,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to make it fall.
Well, today we're going to be talking about it in the concept of privacy and security and all that in your practice. And yes, if this thing falls, people could get hurt. Because let's imagine this. You wake up in to the morning news saying that there's a major problem, shut down the internet connections across, most of the area that you're in. And you've got, just a few businesses at home to have access, but there's no real understanding of what's happening, or when things are going to be back to normal. So now you got to look at what dependencies do I have? So that's the Jenga reference. Like you start pulling these blocks out because things are down, what other things may either fall or be like hanging on by a thread?
Yeah, and that you definitely don't want to pull one more block from that area because it's all gonna fall. So I don't know. I always say, boom just happened. Now what happens? But instead of making it about an incident response plan like we have in the past, I wanted to really get everybody to think about dependencies. Because you think, just in you're traveling today, and so you're like, oh, I got this, I got all the gear, and then you get down there and you're like, oh, I don't have this, and I need that. So even in those kind of things, you don't think of all the parts that are moving parts. And today, we got a lot of moving parts.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So here's our. Rather than us just randomly going through things, I thought it'd be better if we kind of created a little story and we kind of went through what all we would have to think about, and then you can adapt that to yourself. So, it's a thought exercise. Yeah, I'm jumping through mental hoops.
Yeah.
So, all right, so here's the scenario that you have a city outage. It hits the whole area, and there are a lot of things that could make this happen. And it will never happen to me. That's the number one failure in your planning right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Your overconfidence is definitely a block.
Yeah. I always worry about any IT person that's overconfident, any overconfidence. I like confidence with a healthy dose of doubt and paranoia. That's
right.
That way you just never think it's perfect. So you got the citywide outage. So your main office is down, but you got a remote office that's like an hour and a half away. And today it's only got 2 people in it because you're not seeing any patients there. They're just catching up on their work. They thought, yuck, yuck, yuck. Everybody has some remote staff somewhere, may or may not be in that area. And we were discussing this scenario once before, and somebody was like, well, I'm going to have redundant internet. Well, you know what? I have redundant internet even in my house. And the redundancy plan is great, but it's not designed to do everything I would normally do. It's designed to keep me connected so I can get into it and get out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take into account that everyone else is down at the same time, probably relying on similar redundancies, if anything.
Yeah, we had a very similar situation with all the floods that happened in North Carolina several months ago. And we had a client that had some redundancies, and they had the backups, and they had a lot of stuff. But yet they were still down for 2 weeks. They were still down. And it just was a matter of we couldn't use the redundancies we had because of other dependencies on those redundancies.
It can't work unless that can work, and that can't work because the other thing can't work.
Yeah, because you know what? It's amazing that with all the wireless, there's still not wireless power. So without that, we really couldn't do a whole lot much with anything else.
Yeah, you can do your generators, but they don't power. I mean, you're talking about the big ones that sound like a Mack truck that could really power anything, you know, and I know about those from being with ASCs because they got to have some kind of backup power. But wow,
it was a mess because it was a cascading thing. Like, to your point, yes, you can go buy a generator, maybe because everybody else is buying generators, but you get a generator and you can power up some stuff, but then you find out that you got power for a computer and your modem and all that, but guess what? The ISP in the area is down too. So you still can't get anything. And, you don't have a wireless failover that can work inside of that building because the building is covered in metal. And so you have to have something that goes on the outside of the antenna. And guess what? It's going to take 2 weeks to get the antenna in. It's just, it was just one issue after another. It was terrible.
Well, and that's exactly why and you had redundancy after redundancy, but the redundancies even failed. And if you haven't even thought of them, you're not even going to have the chance to have some other things. And that's why I want you to think about it. And it's not just, you have to worry about software, your applications, your devices, and your connectivity. And usually somebody leaves something out. And I didn't realize this needed that to work. And if you're using your office is in a building where random people have run lines and you don't know that line goes to that line, seen that kind of thing. So for the most part, the only way you find out is when something goes wrong on some of these things. But if you've at least made an effort. So let's go through just some simple concepts of, okay, what am I going to keep up and running? Because I've gotten up to this news and it's like, good morning, Vietnam. Good morning. Boom, just happened. That's what
Yeah.
So you now need to figure out, you're the one that's going to have to figure out what you're going to do to keep the business going. And it doesn't really matter what the business is. You're going to need to figure this out. Every other business is, but you're going to be ahead of them because you listen to Help Me with HIPAA.
That's right.
See? And so what you're going to look at is, if that's the case, we're down and we don't know how long we're going to be down. Do you just say, well, we'll wait for an hour and see if it comes back up?
Yeah. Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about the people who got patients coming
in?
Oh, there's that.
Take your early lunch break.
Put a little sign on the door. We gone.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen real world examples. I have seen, especially if it's late in the afternoon, that they'll just close the office early, hoping that it's back up and going the next day. And then if not, that's when they kick in to, we need to pull out a response plan.
Well, but we don't have that in our example on purpose.
Okay.
So on purpose, this is first thing in the morning. You got a full office day, patients coming in, or you got projects that are planned. If you're not a practice, you're a software company or whatever. You got all these things going on. And this is where it comes in handy, where you go, oh, everything's in the cloud, so we're fine. Wrong.
Nah, that's never the case.
Well, this is one case where not being in the cloud is good. Because if you're not in the cloud, you could get to whatever's available, but very few software applications today operate without some level of connectivity.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, they connect to services, they pull data down, it's always something.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do their licensing that way, and if it can't get out and confirm that you have a right to use it, you may not even be able to use it.
You know, it's so funny. I was watching a video the other day, and the guy was talking about some piece of software, and he goes, and you can run it locally. Like it was magic. I'm like, that's all we used to be able to do.
Yeah, if you didn't have your floppy disk, you couldn't run it anywhere.
I know.
Yeah, it was it is watching the ebb and flow of technology and the way people use it it's always been fun. But when we think about connectivity, so power, that's one piece. And we're only going to say that the main ISP is down. We haven't lost power, at least. But it's like in an area, generally you're going to have, and like I think you went through this a while back, where most everybody had one service provider and it went down and everybody in your area was out.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize there are still rural places that have one option for ISP, and that's it. Yeah.
And I know that because not only you, but I know other places where that's it. That's all you got. And you might have a wireless backup, but it's, and then they're like, well, just go to satellite. Do you know how much that costs?
Yeah.
Have you priced that? I bet you have.
But, not only that, but we looked at that option too during the floods in North Carolina, and we could have gotten it, but everybody was trying to get it, and it's again 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. I mean, it's not you're not going to get it next day.
No, you've got to get it now, and that's why we're talking about it now, so that you could think that through. How important is it for you to have that? It's important enough for me. And I have this really cool, T-Mobile offers a home backup wireless. And it's absolutely a backup internet connection. That's what it's sold as. And, I know when it goes down. It's funny because like 2 days after I put it in, I was like, I'm going to need to test this thing out. And suddenly it flipped over to it. I'm like, well, I'm testing.
Yeah.
This is exactly why I needed it. So there are reasons to have it, but there is no way I could do my normal business day running just on it. And all the things in my household that need the internet or use the internet wouldn't function properly due to it. Yeah. Some things are going to function locally, but it's not going to allow me to operate. And so many things are automated now. You got the heating and air. You've got, how security systems let you in. So if we're going to say, look, you've got to immediately deal with, okay, we're going to notify all the patients that are coming in this morning that we're going to need to reschedule them. Great. How are you going to do that? Because you more than likely today use VoIP phones.
Yep.
So now you're going to have employees using their personal phones to call patients. And now the patients have the employee's personal phone number.
Oh, boy.
And what about the patients that are calling in because they're trying to figure out what they should do because they don't want to get in the car? So you can't just say, well, we'll wait.
Yeah.
And you have to do that no matter what.
If you're lucky, you do have a way you can install an app on your phone through the VoIP provider. So you could call through those phones and it still show as the office. But again, probably need to know how that needs to function and set up beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Another thing you're going to need. And keep in mind that everybody in the area's internet traffic is being piped through whatever's open.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if the mobile is working, they're going to hit the mobile, and what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to drag the system down.
Yeah, I mean, you remember back in the day and the olden days of cell towers, and if you went anywhere where there were a lot of people, your cell service didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, like you go to a football game or something like that, and you get there, and it's a sold out game, guaranteed. All your phones, you're going to have problems getting the phones to work back in the day. They finally cracked that nut and got enough juice in the area that the air could suck the signals out. I don't know. Was the best way to explain it. But essentially, they finally took care of that. But they don't have it that way in every town around, you know, the country. And, you know, even here. And if you go to downtown Atlanta, it's very different coverage than if you're even out in the suburbs. So, you know, it's kind of like if you've ever driven through areas, the really rural parts of the country, which we get to do frequently. You know, South Georgia, Northern Florida, even South Florida around the swamps and everything. And there's just pockets where there's nothing. You know, and there's even my family in, you know, up in North Georgia, my sister be like, I'm probably going to drop in just a minute where it switches towers right here. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
You know?
I was driving down 95 yesterday, I-95, you know, all the way through Florida, Georgia. And there were pockets where, because I was streaming some podcasts, and there was pockets where it just cut off. No signal at all. You know, major interstate.
Yep. You would think that they could run down through there and fix that crossover issue, because it came back on fairly quickly, almost always.
Yeah.
But
I turned on my Wi-Fi extender and it didn't work.
Well, you know, for the most part, though, if you're trying to count on that, you've got to keep that in mind if that's going to be your backup plan. Even if you don't have two full pipes, if you will, that you even could run load balancing on a normal day, so that if you lost one, you're still fairly operational. You're still way less than you're used to. So having that in mind, you've got that to deal with. Do your security systems. How long will they work properly and let people indoors?
Ooh.
Yeah, the badge readers and all of that. How long are they going to allow you to come and go without any kind of connectivity? If you don't know, you don't know. You know, it's like, I love my smart lock at home, but all these people are like, no more keys, just smart locks. And I'm like, you realize it could stop working, right? And I've always been paranoid about it. And then one of ours did, and it's a long story. But anyway, had to replace one. But it's the same concept of, you've always got to have a plan B when it comes to, you know, security. And what about those automations that you have of when lights and HVAC go on and off? Okay. If you lose connectivity, does it mess those up? Does it start thinking, what, you know, oh, we're on the weekend, I'm going to turn off the air?
Yeah, potentially.
And what about, like, oh, you've got a scanner that's designed to scan to the cloud server. Okay, it's configured for that and nothing else, nothing locally.
Yeah. And let's sprinkle in a little bit of AI here, but think of all the agents everybody's now starting to want to build and do.
Yeah. Those are actually working normally for you, and they're not going to work in almost every case without some connectivity. And then you've got, you know, okay, I have my EHR, whether I have it local or in the cloud. If you can even get to it, now I can't get to it the way I normally would with the same number of people, the higher level of traffic, because everybody's having to do things they wouldn't normally do. And if, let's say, I have one piece that's running here, almost always it's like getting authorizations from insurance companies, and those are sending those messages out over the internet.
Yep.
So that all the functionality, if you lose the internet, what's not going to work? It's certainly worth pulling the plug one day just to see what would and what wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, kind of going back to the, your backup internet service, one thing that we run into in the early years was what people didn't anticipate, and we weren't anticipating either, is that there are things on your computer that are set to do certain things at certain times that use bandwidth, which you never think about until your bandwidth is cut way down because of an incident. And then all of a sudden you're like, why can't anybody get online? We've got this extra, failover service. And then what we found out is, well, because they're all trying to run backups and they're trying to do cloud syncing with files and all this stuff. And it's sucking up all the bandwidth. And so you can't get anything else to happen because the other things you told the computer to do in the background, it's doing.
Yeah, because you got to turn all that off. And that's not something you wave a magic wand and make happen.
Nope.
If you don't even know that it's happening until it fails, and then it's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember years ago, I called my ISP out to my house. And I was like, I can't get, this thing does not work for some reason. It's not connecting, blah, 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 whatever. And they looked at it and they're like, oh, it's working fine. We don't know what's wrong with it. And so I started watching it. This is like over a few days period. And it was always happening between a certain time frame. And what I found out was there was some device in my house trying to upload like a 4 gigabyte file. And this was back when that was hard. and it was killing the entire internet connection for like 4 hours until it would finally time out.
Okay, so was it one of the devices that you managed or one of the things the kids were doing?
Oh, you know the answer to that. The kids are doing something.
Man, there we go. So you don't even know what people are doing.
No, I literally went around and was pulling, the Ethernet cable or the Wi-Fi out of each computer. Like, I don't want any connectivity, and I'll start adding computers back until the problem shows back up. And that's how we found it.
Yeah. But see, that's exactly the scenario you're working in when you're dealing with these kinds of situations, we'll call it, downtime. And it's, okay, if I don't have internet, how many things aren't going to work properly? Phones, number one, because people are going to be calling and you're going to need to be calling out. You've got to communicate with your staff. You've got to communicate with any of your business partners, any of your patients, clients, whoever, so that you know what's going on. That's all got to happen. So people are going to be calling you. What's going to happen if they call you? Does it roll over to a backup number? Does it roll over to somebody's cell phone? Okay, well, if it rolls over to somebody's cell phone, what if they're not there?
Yeah.
They're on vacation. They're in another state, another country, something like that. So you've got to think all of those pieces through.
Or it rolls over to their phone number and they can't answer because maybe they're on the other line with somebody. And then it's like, you've reached David's cell phone. Please leave a message. And they're like, what? Who is it?
I dialed the wrong number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they just call you back. And the cycle continues. So you've got to actually try that. Unplug the internet and try to call in to your office number.
All this stuff is great weekend fun. I mean, you should try it.
Well, and it involved the whole staff, though. Plan an afternoon. We're going to take an afternoon and we're going to unplug the internet and see what happens. It'll only take you about 2 hours, really. If you plan 2 hours, it'll give you enough time to see the areas that might be trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you tell everybody, pretend you're doing your normal work. See if you can access all the things you would normally access.
Yeah. And just use the first one to just note everything. And then you can go back and start working on those things. And then, okay, we think we've figured out how to, get around this and, the dependency for that. And then schedule another time, maybe next quarter, and let's try it again and see, what you solved and what's still there as a problem.
Yeah. So you're not just having to learn in a crisis. That's not the time to learn.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I mean, if you're without power, there's a lot of things that people can imagine. Without power, so many things aren't going to work. It's not going to work. But we're so connected these days, we just expect it to work all the time.
Yeah. It's got 5 nines of uptime.
It'll always be there. So if you're doing this, so you've got the dependencies that count on the internet, but let's say that you're able to make some things work over your backup wireless. So it's not like you can go get some, because that's what everybody else is going to do. You're in the same boat with a bunch of other people trying to bail the water out. So just know, if you think you can just run to the store and have something in a day or two, that's you got about an hour. So it's certainly not, I'm going to wait an hour to see. It's better off having a plan and knowing exactly what's going to happen. Or at least having a plan and knowing these things aren't going to happen. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to right now, we're just shutting down, and we're going to plan on rescheduling everybody and hope we're back up tomorrow. And hope is not a really solid, you can't just put that in the last page of your incident, your playbook. We're going to hope we're back up tomorrow. The big things are about your line of business applications. Can you get to them? And we're doing so many things now where you sign into one thing that signs you into everything.
Yeah.
And now I can't get to the one thing. So is it stopping me from getting to all the other things? Because there is a certain amount of, yes, I know we're switching to pass keys and all of that, but those are still being stored somewhere. And if you can't get to them, or you got the MFA and that's not working because there's so much traffic, will it even happen? How much of that do you think would be impacted?
A
just
lot.
Based on what you know.
Yeah. I mean, just having a password manager. Can you get to your password manager if there's no internet? Is there a local version or copy? Can it log in if the internet's down to give you access to that? All those answers are hidden behind the plug. Just pull the plug and find out.
And a lot of it's going to have to do with how your network is configured locally too.
Yeah.
Can you easily start using, like, one of our backup plans is always, if wherever you're at, you can't get internet, you use your personal hotspot. We'll figure it out, but get there to get messages out and to receive them. And maybe you have those, but employees aren't going to want to do that. And if you're in a region, guess what? If everybody else is down, everybody's going to be hitting that. So that's not going to make things a lot better. And we were with a client last week doing a little tabletop, and it's like, okay, well, if this happens, we need to have a meeting. So I guess we'll get on Teams. And it was like, oh, wait, we can't get to Teams. So what are we going to do? Should we try to do Teams? And immediately they start to recognize it, which is, understanding that if this is not there, how many other things aren't there is what gave me, the idea of having this discussion. And even if you can get up and running and stay up and running, can you do everything you need to do? Can you collect a payment? The PCI, DSS rules expect for you to have some level of it, but not 100%, right?
Yeah.
So you got some staff that can get to some things because they're not in the affected area. So now you're going to let everybody tell them what to do? What if they don't even know what to do? You're going to send somebody to the remote office? You know, it's an hour's drive away. Are you going to send them there? You can get your remote biller up, but, you know, how many other things are impacted within the area? You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And some pieces of software, like you can't even get to it because you're not coming from the same IP address it has in its system to allow it in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we've got IT people that are great. All of their clients are experiencing this too. So
yes.
If you had what?
Thank you. Please hold.
Yes. Thank you for calling. Please hold. Thank you for calling. Please hold. But I mean, you can imagine if not even, you know, the entire area, but just a large area where, you know, a large number of your clients are, you're not going to be able to drop everything for every one of them.
Mm-mm.
And you still have the clients that aren't impacted. And you still have, you know, the ones that have paid are going to come to the top, and the ones that aren't on a regular maintenance plan are going to, you know, you fall to the bottom. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Well,
and not only that, but people are searching for an IT provider, so they're also calling you mm-hmm. and sucking up your quote unquote bandwidth. Hey, we've never thought about it before. We need somebody. Well, not today, brother.
Not gonna happen. So, but you know, this thing depends on that thing, depends on that thing, and that's the issue. Is you got to say, what would we do? What would we say we needed to have up and running for the first 4 hours? After 4 hours, you better start planning more. You know, it's a much more concerning thing when you start getting through to the end of the day, because now I've got to decide about tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And you're counting on them to know, and they're not going to answer all the calls from all the people. You know, you're going to have to be watching the news more than likely if it's a big outage. So having a plan of what you need to have operational in any given scenario has nothing to do with a cyber attack. It's a supply chain issue.
Yeah.
So how many little things can be pulled out with you still not falling over? And then you look over and somebody's pulled out a block you didn't even know was pulled out, and you are losing stability quickly.
Yeah. We should make a Jenga game and put all these things on it. And make people start pulling them out just to see what happens.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
Gives you a visual representation of what we're talking about today.
Yeah. How many things can I remove and stay operational?
Mm-hmm.
And for those whose objective is patient care, you're supposed to maintain patient care. You know, figure out a way to make sure that patients are being cared for properly and that you're not just ghosting them for a week or two if there's a problem in your organization. So you have to sit down and say, you know, right now, you've got a single point of failure. Almost everybody does. Right? If that single point of failure goes out, how operational am I? Mm-hmm. How long could I operate in that environment? What parts of my business could I actually run? And actually try it and see. Because if you got one little tiny pipe, we have a wireless access point and we got 15 computers we're going to hook to it.
Yeah.
About how many would you think you could have up and running off of that?
Well, the thing we run into oftentimes is somebody will say like, oh, we're going to fall back to hotspots or whatever. And then you're like, yeah, but none of your computers have wireless capability. They're all hardwired. So what are we going to do then?
Yeah. How you going to connect them?
Yeah.
Who's going to do that?
We need to have the wireless capability at least somewhere so we can plug, USB dongles in and get all that configured. But yeah, all that needs to be thought through before it happens.
Yeah. And it's understanding it's not just your basic incident response. It's understanding what's critical to your ability to function and what do those things depend on. We don't have to worry about, I've actually seen scenarios. We don't have to worry about accounting because we're not going to worry about being down 2 weeks. You're down 2 weeks and you're not paying any bills.
That sounds like a good idea.
Including to your staff.
I'd be very profitable that month.
But these are the kinds of things that you've got to figure out. And, we have we can relocate functionality because we have the luxury of that. But, like your clients couldn't. That's the same thing. And if you don't deal with it, understanding that you can't rely on it just being you that needs to deal with this. Everyone in your area is trying to deal with it. Everyone in your area needs the internet connection that everybody's fighting for. Everyone needs some sort of equipment. Everybody's using the wireless. Everybody's using the IT people. Are you prepared for not being able to do that on your own? You're like, I can't just call them up and they're going to run over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They may be down too.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, welcome to hurricane season.
Yeah, I know. We're at the peak of hurricane season. So it's another reason, But for the most part, if you think that you're going to just roll the dice and you'll see and that you're not going to have these big problems, you're the one that won't survive very well on when these happen. It is a fun exercise and very educational to go through these.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to pull the plug or do some sort of tabletop exercise to sit and think about what it would be, but we're big fans of doing it.
Yeah. And if for some reason, I don't know how this could be, but if for some reason you're sitting there and you're looking at a white piece of paper and you're like, I can't think of a single thing, it would be a dependency. First of all, this episode should give you a lot of stuff, but if you have an AI tool of any kind, you can always put these scenarios in there and let it help you at least get the process started for thinking these things through.
Yeah. And if you've got one where you can put some details in it because you don't, it's not a free one, you've got some control over it, you can give it more details. We use this, we have this, and tell it, ask me questions.
Mm-hmm.
So strongly recommend that you take that time to really think that through and, before your good morning boom happens. And again, left of boom is really what matters.
Yep.
It is your ability to manage and survive directly related to what you do left of boom.
Yep. That is true.
So,
the right of boom, the right of boom you is dependent on the left of boom you.
And you don't want to be the right of boom you yelling at the left of boom you.
That's right.
You need to know the people you're going to talk to. You need to know who you can count on. You need to know what you would be able to do, and don't look at it like it's an hour thing. Look at it like it's a 3-day thing. Just start there. It's 3 days. How are you going to function? What are you going to do? And how are you going to recover after you've had to limp along for this time?
Long weekend. What?
Yeah, that's what I'm counting on. There you go. That's it.
Yeah. Well, the hackers always hack on, Friday afternoon, but bad things always happen Monday morning.
I know, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's one of those things where no matter, it will never be a good time.
No.
To plan for this, it will never be a good time for it to happen either.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing to remember.
All right. Well, there's our digital Jenga game for the day, folks. There should be a lot of things that got you thinking about what depends on other things in your business. If you pull those things out, what else could potentially fall or fail? That's your thought exercise, your homework for this episode. So be sure to share this out. Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us again next week. And remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.